We are here to talk about the horror anthology movie Monsterland 2. Obviously, this one follows Monsterland. So this movie has 6 stories, well, 5 stories and 1 vignette, really. All that can do with kind of creature features or some type of, you know, monster creature. So it's a low-budget kind of indie anthology. There's no kind of wraparound story or anything like that. And to be honest with you, I'm not the biggest sort of anthology fan, because I never feel like you can kind of develop characters all that well. So we'll kind of give a brief kind of run through the kind of the films. I will have to kind of look at my notes a little bit just to kind of like remember all this what I'm talking about here. So excuse me if I look down. So the first one is called Brace Face, which is about this girl who has got this kind of huge kind of like brace of old-fashioned kind of sort of apparatus around her head, and she's obviously getting bullied because of it. She seems to be somewhat kind of docile. Inevitably, she kind of that sort of brace comes off to reveal some type of kind of secret, which we can probably guess, and she kind of takes care of the bullies, and we find out her family's a little weird too. The acting in this one was horrible, I have to say. I think part of it is sort of like choices made by the director, but it's just kind of just not particularly well made. I think the actual the makeup looks pretty good, but it just goes on. It feels like this one almost goes on a little bit too long. It should have ended at a certain point, but it kind of goes on a little bit further, which I didn't feel was really necessary. Number 2 is White Drift. To me, this was the best out the kind of the 6 stories. I'm reading some other reviews. Some people say this was too slow, but I actually thought this was quite good. I got, you know, you got some character development with this one. So you basically have this kind of this loner who's essentially kind of looking for an army buddy. Now we initially think that it's kind of some type of drug addiction that he's kind of suffering with, and he's kind of looking for an old army buddy to kind of help him out. But it turns out that he might actually have the curse of the werewolf. This one was good for me because I felt like you actually had some character growth in this one, and a little bit of an arc. And I've got to say, I thought the actual werewolf effects were pretty strong, and the acting was all pretty good as well. There was a couple of instances where some background characters act in a weird, illogical way, but other than that, I thought this was actually a fairly good movie. Segment 3, Worm Bug. This one is, as a theme you'll see with this one, doesn't make a lot of sense. So basically we have a guy who somehow swallows some type of bug while he's asleep, some type of parasite, and it kind of grows inside him, and you know, it ultimately kind of makes him want to eat more and kind of do weird things, and eventually this kind of bug comes out and is kind of like ultimately commits him to do kind of murderous things. It's kind of like a horror comedy almost. There's actually a film that kind of like, it reminds me a little bit of, that name escapes me now, where you have the Elmer little character that kind of pops up. I'm forgetting the actual name of the film now, but it kind of reminds me of that a little bit. But it's just a little silly and doesn't really make a lot of sense, but it's kind of, it has a few fun elements, I have to say. This one, The Flea, number 4, doesn't make any sense at all. So we have a kind of 2 serial killers that are kind of marked serial killers that seem to be killing babies and old people for some reason. It's never really explained what's going on in this one. One of these serial killers decides he's had enough and kind of doesn't want to do it anymore, and then the other one kind of tries to get him back into the kind of the swing of things, and we find out that there may be, what they're actually killing may not be quite as straightforward as it seems. But this one doesn't make any sense. It does not get, the narrative structure of this one doesn't really kind of tell you what's going on, so you're thinking, I don't really know what I've watched. So the performances, I've got to say, were a little bit of fun with this one, so I kind of liked some of the performances, but the writing and the kind of direction of this one was quite poor. The last one, the 5th one, is one called Justice Served. This was an interesting concept, but ultimately it's a little dull. So we have a kind of a courtroom drama, and it looks like there's a courtroom drama but in hell. So everything's kind of switched around. So people are kind of trying to prove that they have done things and have been bad. So it's quite a neat idea, and there's some kind of like quite kind of neat kind of demonic kind of imagery and stuff like that that I thought was quite sort of fun. But like I said, the movie itself is a little dull. And then the last one is barely a minute long, and it's just basically about a person kind of getting taken under as they have an operation. It's not even worth talking about, if I'm honest. So overall, I've got to say, there was one movie, one sort of segment I thought was fairly good, which is the second one, the werewolf one. I feel it was the most complete, the best arc, and was the most well made. The courtroom one was okay, but the rest of them were just seemed a little shoddy to me, a little kind of on the sort of the cheap side, and either didn't make sense or just kind of like just weren't very well made to begin with. So it's a kind of, like I said, I'm not the biggest Anthology fan, so I'm coming from this from a place where I don't really like Anthology films all that much. I never think you get to know the characters all that well, with a rare exception. But I'll give it a 4 out of 10 because I feel 5 is my average. This movie was below average. The werewolf one I would give it a 6, which is kind of why my average score is a 4, if that makes sense, because it just, that one alone can't kind of bring it above an average mark for me. But it's you know, at least it's kind of, you see some kind of special effects in regards to prosthetics and monsters and stuff. But I've got to say, I've seen better Anthology films. If you've seen it, what did you think of it? Just leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.